Welcome to Positively Powered, where I get to talk to authors who are making a positive impact in the world. And since I always love to say that my mission is to help raise the positive vibration of the planet, you being here listening is helping us do that. So welcome. I'm Amy Collette. I'm your host here on Positively Powered, and today I get to talk with my dear friend and author, Stacie Ivey. She's the author of several books. The one we're going to be focusing on today is called Awakening Your Feminine Spirit, Finding Balance, Purpose, and Strength. So I was very honored to help Stacie unleash her inner author, and I'm very happy to talk to you if you're an aspiring author about your book ideas and where you might go with that. So I offer a free consultation to my listeners, so you can contact me through my website, which is Unleash Your Inner Author, or call me at 303-579-9907. Be happy to talk with you about your positive impact through your book. So now back to Stacie, our guest today. She's the author of 3 books, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit and the workbook that goes along with it, and her new children's book, which is called Before the Veil. She's a nationally certified and licensed speech-language pathologist with 20 years of therapy experience. Through her personal life struggles and her own inner promptings, Stacie began exploring positive psychology and different modalities like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and energy practices to help and transform her own life. In 2009, she became a registered yoga instructor and following a month-long immersion in Costa Rica, which was her version of Eat, Pray, Love. Stacie is a business owner and entrepreneur, taking her personal and professional experience and integrating it into a business focused on service. She works with individuals and groups through private sessions, women's yoga retreats, and workshops on the topics of healing, yoga, and mindfulness. For children, Stacie also created a communication-based yoga program for children at University of New Mexico and co-developed a special needs yoga teacher training in Boston. Stacie lives in Albuquerque with her daughter Corinna, son Aiden, husband James, and 2 beautiful chihuahuas named Luna and Shadow. And Stacie's going to tell us at the end of the podcast today about her free gift and an ebook at her website. So without further ado, welcome Stacie to Positively Powered.
Thank you, Amy. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Stacie, I just want to have people understand a little bit about your journey. I always talk about becoming an author, and I definitely got to see you make that transition from, oh my gosh, I have this book idea, and it morphed a couple of times and changed and evolved into this beautiful, amazing thing that it is now. So do you want to talk a little bit about your background and how you came to be an author?
I would love to. Thank you, Amy. I, as many people do, have always had the dream of being an author, and I've always had this book inside of me that I knew needed to come out. But because of my own confidence issues and ways that I blocked myself, it took me a while to get to that point. And when I found you, I was extremely grateful because we did an in-person course, as you know, over a course of a number of weeks, and it really helped me connect back to that knowing that I needed to write and finish this book. And so, yes, it did have many evolutions. My book, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit, is partially a memoir and then also has many other components that I basically took through my own journey and my own struggles. And I really just found, what really helped me overcome a lot of that. And then, like you said, it had 3 different titles, 3 different morphs, and it just started to get more and more refined. So what I just would do would just write I found that when I took the time and made an effort to carve out time to write, that really helped. And so I just, kept going, and you as my book coach and then my editor really helped me along that path.
Thank you, Stacie, for saying that. And I wanted to circle back a little bit. You said about blocking out time, because one thing that I was really impressed with you that people almost always struggle with is staying focused and staying, where it's fun to start the book and there's all this excitement, and then it can kind of, your energy can kind of drift off and get a little unfocused. But you stayed pretty focused, even though you did have to rewrite and rewrite. But how did you maintain that focus and that energy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I definitely have found that the energy of creativity is this higher vibrational energy, just like gratitude is, as you've discovered in writing your book. But what I found is the more that I stayed in that energy and the more I stayed focused on what I was doing, I was able to accomplish finishing my book and completing what I needed to complete. Otherwise, when I got caught up in the other aspects of life too much, that's when I would get blocked, and then the creative flow would stop. And so I found the more that I was able to stay in that creative flow and really devote myself to the sacred time of writing and really knowing what you always reminded me of is how important it is that to share the message, that there's so many people that want to hear what I have to say, and it's important to share. And so, that helped keep me going. So I just really felt like it was just staying in that energy of that creative flow and staying focused and really just committing to it and carving out time in the morning or whenever worked best for me to really just sit with it and be with it.
That's great. I think that's great advice, and it's also kind of maybe helps other people who are writing their books and saying, oh, I'm not the only one who struggles with this, because we all do. It's really hard
Absolutely.
to stay in that flow and that creative place where it's fun and it's exciting and you're pumped up. Sometimes you just have to make yourself sit down and do it.
Absolutely. It takes commitment.
Yeah,
Right. It
yeah,
does.
yeah. So I realize we're talking about your book, but our listeners don't really know what your book is about. So can you give us an overview about your book?
Yes, definitely. So it's called Awakening Your Feminine Spirit. Again, finding balance, purpose, and strength. It's about balancing energy and having that connection with what the feminine energy is and rising that energy up within us. We all have that masculine energy, which is more about doing and thinking and reasoning and pushing forward and everything that we were taught in school. And I lived a very masculine energy life for a long time, very left brain, uh, and just always pushing, pushing, pushing. And when I started to open to even the concept of what feminine energy is and then understanding the right brain, I opened up more into learning how to receive, learning how to be, learning how to tap into that aspect that is my higher self and step out of the limited ways that my ego wanted to hold me back, and just moving into more of my creativity and understanding the way synchronicities and work and grace. And so the way I broke the book into 3 components is sacred surrender, which is about all the things that I needed to let go of and that I encourage the reader to look at in their own lives through invitations and through quotes, and then through obviously the text in the book. Each section of the book has a quote, text, and then an invitation. And that's broken into those 3 parts. So the surrender is the letting go of conditioning, beliefs, things that we think that we know that we've been taught that may or may not be true. and just really being discerning about that and looking at that. And, there's that aspect of ourselves that wants to keep us safe in this world. But the problem with that is when we only listen to that side, then it also limits our growth and expansion into becoming who we can really fully become and embrace in a bigger way, to serve the world in bigger ways, to be confident in who we are, and just to be authentically who we are. Embodiment goes a lot into what I learned in yoga about really coming into the body and feeling. And a lot of times when we have experienced trauma, we have a tendency to jump out of our bodies and want to break away from that as a survival mechanism. But really our body is a tremendous vessel for healing. And so embodiment is really learning that we have all the elements of nature within us through the fire, the water, of the way our blood pumps through our veins is the water, part of the water aspect. And then the way our hips and our pelvis and that energy center, that's related to water, the second chakra. And the power is related to the fire and the solar plexus, and just moving all through, really understanding earth. Our bodies come from earth, and just really knowing when we get into a place where we feel just uncomfortable or uneasy, coming back to that grounded feeling of earth, and how do we do that, and what does that mean in a really practical way. And then the third part of the book is sacred expansion, and that's really about opening up to miracles and synchronicities and just the power of unconditional love, and really opening into creating the life and the world that we want to see and that we all want to live in, that would be the best for us individually and collectively. So that's in summary what the book is about.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned in passing the invitations. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So the invitations are a lot about where I take the component of what I learned as a therapist and how do you carry into everyday life, bridge what you're learning and make it a part of your everyday life. So that's what the invitation is. It's a practical way to say, okay, I can reflect upon this. I can try this and see if this works for me. I wanted to make it really practical and hands-on, to make it where everyone can find something that works for them or doesn't work for them. It's just an invitation. So it's not saying you have to do this. It's saying, I invite you to try this and see if this works for you.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. I really like that because it grounds it in reality, like, oh, I can make this change too and have this positive transformation in my life.
Right.
Because your
Right.
stories are really compelling and beautiful. And then to help the reader really, as you say, embody that, really take that in and carry it with them into their life for their own healing and transformation. That's amazing.
Thank you, Amy. Yes. I mean, a lot of what started to unfold as the book evolved was this feeling that I started to have about really this understanding that I feel like the aspects of the feminine have been really repressed. And I started to learn that through history, what happened with the patriarchy and the church, and not to make anyone wrong, but those aspects have been sort of forgotten and lost, and those relate to intuition and unconditional love and compassion and recognizing that life and we are sacred and that everything is interconnected, and really that we are all being called upon in different ways to find that path back to who we truly are, that truest essence of ourselves. And I tie in one of my stories at the beginning of me finding my biological mother and really healing a lot of my mother relationship wounds, both with my mother that raised me, who now we have the best relationship that we've ever had. And we had a good relationship growing up, but we have an amazing relationship now. And my biological mother and I have a wonderful, great relationship also. And I just really started to connect to what's the essence of mother, and what is the essence of that both nurturing, compassion, loving, unconditionally loving side, but also there's that fierce warrior goddess energy as well in that. And so I tie that into the book, and I really feel like it's powerful for many women, and men also can really gain a lot from what's in the book.
Right. And that's one thing I love about it, is because you talk about the power in those things that have traditionally been considered weak, like nurturing and giving and loving and that receiving, but
Right.
also in that sort of mama bear sense where, you don't want to mess with, you don't want to come between like a mama moose and her cub. We're always worried about that when we're hiking up in the mountains, is, you got to keep your eye
Absolutely.
out to be, really, really aware and respectful of that powerful relationship. So you relate that masculine and feminine, that play, I like to think of it kind of as a dance. You relate it in the book to yin and yang, the
Yes.
masculine and feminine, and we all have that, whether we're female or male in this life.
Right. What I love about that symbol, so I think most people can imagine what it looks like. It's the black dark side of the yin, which is the feminine, and then it's represented by the color black, and then the white is the masculine, the yang energy, and then within, and they both look like a teardrop, or and then they form a circle together, which the circle in itself is a very feminine symbol. But then within each of those, there is, in the feminine side, there's the masculine within that, and in the masculine side, there's the feminine within that. And then if you look at the entire circle, yes, whether we are in a male body or a female body, we have the energy of both of those. What I see as one of the problems in the world today is that we are over-focused on that yang side, the masculine energy side. The linear, I am a separate individual, I have this outward authority, I'm outward looking, I'm pushing forward. All of that is really good, and we need all of that. But, conversely, what we've been missing is we have this inner authority. We have this inward looking ability, opening to receiving and allowing and trusting the flow of life, and being in flow with life the way water flows, and honoring the way the seasons and the cycles of nature and the rhythms of all of that work together, and really connecting that to our own practices in life and the way our bodies evolve and change, and how we care for ourselves, and really opening up into that whole unlimited power that is also emotional on the feminine side, but that is a good thing too, really embracing all of that.
In many ways, your writing is also really beautiful. It's really poetic in a way. And I'm
Thank
thinking
you.
about the way that your book starts out with that line,
Hmm.
and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to ask you about what that is. So the
Okay.
line is, "She comes as a calling, a sort of bubbling from within, tapping lightly at first and asking gently for you to listen." I just love that. And I would love for you to talk to us about who she is that you refer to there.
Yes, thank you. I really love the poetry of words and language, but essentially who she is to me is that aspect of our soul, for me, my higher self that was calling, and the feminine face of God. So all of that at the level of the soul is connected. And we could say we could use the words goddess. We could use the word Shakti. We could use the word divine mother. We could use mother God or mother earth. It could be all of those things, which I think are one with the consciousness of God also. But she is creation. She is beauty. She is strength. She is empathy. She is unconditional love. And she is, when you think of the way a mother loves her child, that is who she is. And she is that essence that is within each of us. We are all, she's that connection that we are all one with that and each other. And all of nature.
Yeah, I feel like hearing you talk about it, Stacie, I feel like the way that I could connect with that aspect is more in an intuitive way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so again, going back to the yin-yang symbol, the feminine energy is about the moon energy. And the moon is very intuitive, you know, and it's really that going within, learning to receive. The moon takes in the light from the sun. That's what gives the moon the light. And so we have this inner authority and this inner power that is our intuition. And it's constantly trying to communicate with us and help guide us along the way, you know, so that we are not only safe in life, but also guided to become our highest and best selves, to bring forth the unique and special, beautiful gifts that we're each here to give in our own unique ways. And we are here, I believe all of us, whether we know it or not, are creative, and we all have that creative spark. And so it's just really tapping into that inner light, that inner beauty, that oneness with all. And from that sense, it's very intuitive. I have one thing I was just listening to the other day was an interview with Dr. Judith Orloff, and she is a medical doctor and also a highly sensitive and empathic person, as am I. And she was talking about how it's really important to tap into the side of intuition is the missing half in medicine in her mind right now. That we deal with the medical world and the body as this basically separate piece from the mind and from the spirit. And when we can learn to recognize, which we are more and more opening up to that everything is so interconnected, that intuition piece, and that is the other half that's been missing. When you're dealing with a human being, whether it be as a healer or you're doing your own healing, really tapping into that intuitive side to us really starts to open to that divine, sacred, beautiful side that we are in our truest sense. That's who we truly are. And that when we know that and we connect to that, life becomes magical and powerful, and I feel that we really open to living in entirely new ways.
Yes, and what I wonder if people who are listening to this, they're thinking, oh, well, if you do this in this intuitive way, I don't know how to do that. But that is exactly what your book is about. Right? So
Right. Well, I will tell you that some of the practices that have helped me a lot with doing that is one, meditation, which can come in so many different forms. There's a lot of people that say they don't know how to meditate, or they can't meditate, or they're not good at meditating. Well, meditating is actually easy once we know what works best for our own physiology and how to really tap into it and understand it. And then yoga is another one that is another form of meditation. That's poetry in motion, or meditation in motion. It's very healing. It's considered a medical practice in India. There's a lot of science that's behind it that that Western researchers are starting to discover. So all of these things are really just starting to really be discovered. Also, mindfulness is another way to approach it. And they're all really so interconnected with each other. But really, it's easier than we think, because ultimately we're naturally intuitive. We are all intuitive. We just have gotten so bogged down by the noises of the world and the distractions of the world. And so we haven't been taught to listen to our inner authority. We haven't been taught to really go within and trust what our inner voice and our inner wisdom and our guidance is telling us. And I really feel like we're in a place right now, though, in the world where that is starting to shift. And so I hope that my book can be a guide to help people that come to it and are drawn to it, that be a guide to help them go, okay, this isn't so hard. And you know, I'm not the first one going through this, and we're all in this journey together.
Yes, you know, using your book, going through, and I've had the privilege of reading it several times
Yes.
through the process of, you know, helping you get it out into the world. And I found that even though I've been, you know, doing all these different practices, some of which are in my book, The Gratitude Connection, and really working on developing my intuition and my happiness, you know, over
Right.
time, you know, I've done a lot of this stuff, but I really learned through your book, and it is this progression through the book where you start off with something that's, you know, pretty easy, and you go deeper and deeper. And I learned so much from your book and was able to just really increase my own practice through the different invitations that you have at the back of each chapter. So really, it's sort of like intuition in a very practical way of like, yes, it is possible to build this up, to connect to it, and actually integrate it in your life where it's not a big deal. It's just part of how you get information. You're just one of the most positive, vibrant people I've ever had the pleasure to know, Stacie. And I just
Thank you, Amy.
wonder, you know, if you could share, because I love, you know, sharing these stories of positivity, if you have any advice for us about how we can stay positive even when things aren't necessarily going great.
Okay, I would love to. Thank you. I have been through, yes, the ringer, and I've also had many, many blessings. What I've learned is we have to allow ourselves to feel and go through what we're going through as we're experiencing it, and not run from it, and really just face it head on and say, okay, I'm really okay with, I can trust God. God is the universe enough to know that I'm going to be okay, and I just have to breathe. I have to come back into my body, and I just have to allow myself to feel, and literally it will lift. It doesn't feel like it will, and we have a tendency to want to run from pain, but it will lift when we allow ourselves to sit with it and be with it and breathe into it and stay with it. If we can hold space for what arises in any situation, it's so powerfully healing. And then recognizing too that humans are amazingly resilient. And I really am just so impressed by so many people and what they've been through in their lives. And I'm, you know, I'm also proud of myself for what I've overcome. But I will say that it's not without divine support, and also the support of other people that have come into my life. Just that presence and being in that space where we can say, I'm here for you, and I love you.
So I know from listening to this interview that people are going to want to connect with you. So how do they connect with you and find your book?
Well, the easiest way to connect with me is through my website, which is my name, stacieivey.com, and it's spelled STACIEIVEY.com. in my website, there's a free download of my book, Igniting Your Intuition. And so if you sign up, you can get the download and then stay in touch with me that way as well. I would love to connect with you and just have a conversation about how I might be of help. I have the 3 books, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit and the workbook are both on Amazon. And the workbook, it takes you through 7 weeks, so 49 days of practices, and each week is centered on a different energy center in the body, going through the 7 primary chakras, and then the elements of earth are connected to all of that. And I really love it as a way of bringing in prayer, affirmation, journaling, drawing. There's even some mandala coloring pages. It's a really fun way to really learn how to easily go into that place of receiving and intuition and learning to trust your inner guidance. And then the book and the children's book are both on Kindle and also on Amazon. And the children's book is a full color storybook geared for ages 3 to 6, and it's called Before the Veil. And it's about the magic of the elemental realm. It has fairies and unicorns, and it's just really beautiful images. The artist that I found, she's in Romania, and she's just such a beautiful person and just really captured what I wanted to go with the text. And so all of those are available on Amazon and also on my website.
Well, it's really fun to help you launch all these beautiful things out into the world, and I'm really excited about your workbook. I haven't worked through it yet, but I think the mandala coloring is what I'm most excited about.
Well,
I love
thank you,
coloring.
Amy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be working through that too. So also you can find all this information on my website, which is amycollette.com. That's AMYCOLLETTE, where you can find the Positively Powered podcast and information to links to all the Stacie's information. So Stacie, I just want to wrap up and thank you so much for bringing your positive energy and your message to us today on Positively Powered.
Amy, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us here today on Positively Powered with Stacie Ivey, my guest today. Stacie was really able to tap into her excellent writing skills and make them consistent over 3 books that she's written using my Unleash Your Inner Author course. Now, a lot of you may also have dreams to be an author, but the thought of actually writing makes you cringe. Don't worry, there's another way to do it. I call it collaborating. And it's kind of the new ghostwriting where we do this together. You do the talking, I do the writing, and pretty soon we have a book that's amazing. It's all in your words. It has your energy and your essence, and you didn't have to do the writing. So check it out on my website. It's amycollette.com, and check out Collaborating and contact me. Let's talk about your ideas and how we can quickly make this into a book that you can use to build your business, grow your tribe, and make a greater impact. Your business, grow your tribe, and make a greater impact.